come from the bowels of hell.
The Dana Gould Hour.
Jungle worms and swamp rats run around your feet.
I fought a dog that killed the calf that ate the canary. What is truth?
And once again, welcome back.
Thanks to GigaPoints for supporting the Dana Gould Hour. GigaPoints is a site that uses data to help you find the best credit card. GigaPoints uses data to pinpoint the cards that will give you the most points based on your actual spending. See how much you could earn at gigapoints.com/Dana. How are you? It's November, Thanksgiving, and we have so much to be thankful for. Really, just one thing. Really, right? One big thing? But I'll take it. November is the month of Thanksgiving, which, nah. It ain't Halloween, and it ain't Christmas neither. Thanksgiving just kind of lays there. And this year you can't do shit anyway because of COVID. But things are looking up. There is every reason to believe that by next spring or summer, certainly by this time next year, we'll be back to normal somewhat. The vaccine will be out. We'll be able to go places and do things. We won't be distracted 24/7 by a powerful lunatic rage tweeting from the toilet. Hope springs eternal, and here at the Dana Gould Hour, we embrace it fulsomely, which, I think, is proper usage of that term. Our guest today is my very good friend, John Hodgman. The world first met John as a contributor to The Daily Show. He is also an actor of note and an author of repute. His new book, Medallion Status, is a thoughtful and very funny meditation on fame and change. It is both fondly nostalgic and prescient at the same time. I highly recommend you scoop it up, especially for your holiday shopping. Always a great read. I also love his book, Vacation Land. John Hodgman is here. Now, before we get going, let me just tug on your coat for one moment about our Patreon feature. We have one. It's simple, and I hope you sign up. $5 a month gets you the title Dana Gould Hour Sky Cadet. And for that month, every month, you get a bonus interview segment, you get some video content, etc., etc. This is a special show. We're trying to hammer our schedule down, and our Patreon reflects that. We don't have graded levels. For $25, I'm not going to come to your house and shampoo your dog. For $5, you're a Sky Cadet, you get some stuff, and off we go. So go to danagould.com for details, and danagould.com/events for information and ticket links for all of the gigs we've heard about here. And now, it's on to our filthy business.
Dana Gould Hour. Free and worth it.
Nothing in my right arm compares to the pain of the hangnail on my left thumb, which is literally like a sun is going nova in my thumb.
No. Oh,
yeah.
no, Dana, no.
It's awful.
I hope, I don't want to see it.
It's the small pain. It's the small pain that causes the most problem.
I'll
JFK.
I'll show you my thumb.
Oh, that's flawless.
No,
Your thumb is flawless.
I developed, since we're talking about the delights of aging and our bodies rejecting our bodies.
This is every conversation I have. With Bobcat Goldthwait, who I talk to just about every day. What are you doing for pain?
I guess it was 2018 when I was watching Wild 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 Country, that documentary about the cult.
Uh-huh.
And I looked down and I was like, my thumbnail looks like the surface of the moon.
Uh-huh.
And gradually all of my fingernails became weirdly pocked, and it turns out I have psoriasis of the fingernails.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm going to show you something. I can't move my hands, so I got to stand up.
It's like, oh, brother, what is that now?
See that?
Yeah, what's that?
I was on the Indianapolis.
I know. So
that was
you could hear my gears turning.
When I was 14, I had a wart growing under my thumbnail, and they had to cut half of it off to get at it. And my thumbnail grew back on an angle, and so I have a right angle on my. I
mean, these are literally self-inflicted wounds. Our bodies hurting our own bodies. But it is. It's like
about the fourth day, a big PBY came in.
Yeah, well, it's like we're on the Orca together. Finally,
that movie does not age. I love that movie.
Does not age. That movie is like a lobster. It does not experience senescence.
No,
you know this is true.
Well,
lobsters do not age. They just keep going and going and getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
I didn't know that. I did not know, but they
don't die. They don't die naturally. They are functionally immortal.
Wow. They don't die naturally.
No.
Wow.
They have predators. Obviously,
people like you and I. Yeah.
But if they die of natural causes, it is at vast lifespans.
Wow.
And sharks too. You know, I can't remember the breed of shark, but they just found a shark that they determined through, guess what, rings on its fins in 400-year-old shark.
Jesus.
And they don't experience senescence. Their bodies don't. I mean,
and he just received a postcard sent to him in 1920.
And that's the rest of the story.
Oh, that's the rest of the story.
No, this poor creature was caught as bycatch in a fishing net and died after 400 years of simply crushing it in the North Atlantic.
And tortoises also live.
And also never get a parrot for your child.
No. Because they'll
will outlive you.
Yeah. Again, I'll cut this. Robert Schimmel, the late great Robert Schimmel, had the funniest joke. If you're gonna be weird, don't get a parrot if you're fucked up in any way, because you don't want your friends coming over and the parrot's going, help, he fucks me when you're not here.
Great Robert Schimmel impersonation, by the way. When the world opens up again, that's going to be your new nightclub.
That's my new thing. Well, now you've segued right into my point.
Look, they call me Johnny Segway.
With the world opening up again, because there's a book by Dominic Dunn called "The Way We Lived."
I'll be back in an hour. Go on, please. I love Dominic Dunn.
It's called The Way We Lived, and it's a story about being in the movers and shakers in Hollywood in late 60s Hollywood, prior to the Manson killings.
Right.
When people left their doors open at night and their cars unlocked, and we had and people don't understand. I think how much those events really did.
Specifically, the Manson killings.
Yeah, were the tip of the iceberg of in an era that's much like today, and 1968, 1969, 1970. Right. Where really one era died and another era started.
You're talking about not the tip of the iceberg, the tipping point.
Tipping point. Thank you.
Yeah. How are you gonna do Malcolm Gladwell that way? Tip of the iceberg. Tipping point.
I was in
trademark.
I was in a wedding with Malcolm Gladwell. Just saying.
I literally thought you were going to say I was in a webinar.
No, we were both
because webinars are more common now than weddings.
We were both in Tim Long's wedding. Tim Long, the great Simpsons writer.
Fantastic.
Uh-huh.
So
just a bunch of rich pedophiles eating babies, learning how to fly in Malibu.
don't cut this. Don't cut this because we're unassailable. They'll never get us. They'll never get us.
Oh,
They'll
man.
never get us.
I stepped into bear trap the other day by saying I was going to vote for Biden. I had no idea. I had no idea what kind of bee's nest I was stepping into.
How were the bees swarming you, and what form was it taking?
I said, when children are in cages separated from their parents, a principal protest vote can be seen as an act of privilege.
Right.
And
where'd you say that?
On Twitter.
Good plan so far.
Good move so far. Here's how it gets.
I don't see how this could have gone wrong.
And then my feed gets swarmed with QAnon weirdos, and you don't realize just the level of I don't know how many people are serious about it. To them, it's just fun. It's like Rock'em Sock'em Robots, but
QAnon.
Just and also far left wing. Just like it's great if we became a totally different country overnight for free. I don't see that happening.
No, I think Rock'em Sock'em Robots is true. I mean, QAnon, it's all expressions of the same giggly nihilism that fueled Gamergate, that fueled Trump, that fueled QAnon. It's all the same.
QAnon is also an old Nazi cult. It's basically ascribing to a group of people that you don't like, unifying against a common enemy that you ascribe supernatural evil to.
Right.
Certainly takes the weight off you.
Did you ever watch the documentary by John Ronson called The Secret Rulers of the World?
No, but I'm halfway through The Vow, and I think I like that group.
Now, see, we can't use any of this.
I know we can't, but I will.
I've been watching The Vow too, and the sequel just came out. No, the Vow.
Yeah,
period.
The Vow. Right. The Vow too. Just when you thought it was safe to go back to Albany.
Yeah. And
Albany, by the way.
I know, right?
It looks like Frodo Baggins in Albany.
And he says at some point, Albany is
the new Rome.
Is the new Rome. All roads will lead to it.
That's amazing.
Definitely 87 goes there. Goes pretty close.
Yeah.
87.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
But what struck me was how blatant, like, I don't defend the Church of Scientology very often, but I would have, if I were David Miscavige, I would have been suing QAnon up and down the line. It's a total ripoff of the whole scheme.
Mm-hmm.
It's a total, and I would be so mad if I were David Miscavige trying to keep the lights on in all these buildings in LA.
I think he's
there's one creep.
I think he's plenty mad.
There's one creep in Albany got himself a sex cult.
I know. I know. It is
based on quote unquote professional training, like bettering your skills at being an executive communicator.
And you see these people that seem pretty normal and intelligent, and then it gets so what's a brand?
Right.
It's a big thing. It's a big thing, actually. Yeah. I don't know how those work, and I'm glad I don't. But this was the point I wanted to make. Let's plug your book. Let's get into some stuff that we can use and record.
Hi, John Hodgman here. Dana, the last time we spoke
for Timex watches.
I wish it were true. Come on, Timex. Come on. I could bring so much value to your brand. That guy from that old Apple ad.
Oh, hi. Sure.
John Hodgman here for the brand new pets.com.
For Chewy.
Relaunched.
Chewy, because your dog loves Wookiee meat. We did an interview several months ago, probably in the beginning of April.
April 24th or 25th or so.
And not long after it, the BLM movement had another huge surge, and the interview seemed dated because the whole story about what was going on was not included in the interview. So
and we were even we were in April, right? So the pandemic, time is meaningless
Right.
It's not even a flat circle anymore. It's just like something that's spilled that I haven't bothered to clean up.
It's a flat puddle.
Yeah. But we were in the throes of lockdown.
At the beginning of lockdown, when we thought that lockdown was finite.
But the Memorial Day murder of George Floyd
had not happened.
That had not happened yet. And right.
So now revisiting it and re-listening to it, and especially looking at your book. I mean, you wrote a book called Medallion Status, and this was the point that I was making with Dominic Dunn, is that
thanks for tying this profoundly meaningful moment of reckoning, national and world reckoning with systemic racism, police brutality, and our own conscience to a plug for my book, Medallion Status. True Stories from Secret Rooms, available
when you see
paperback.
Yeah, when you see how I do this, you're going to see how this whole thing led to you.
Graceful.
But the way we live now is a great snapshot of an era that's passed.
Yeah.
And it passed on a dime.
Mm-hmm.
It passed in August of 1969. Do you feel that Medallion Status is the same thing for the aughts? Like, this was how the world worked before March of 2020.
Well, it does. I mean,
feel like you've written a great memoir about the Weimar Republic.
Thank you. I mean, yes. I mean, the book is structured largely around first specifically air travel.
Luxury air travel that I was taking to go do Hollywood acting jobs, right?
Which by the time I wrote the book were in my rear view mirror anyway.
Sure.
So it was sort of emotionally structured as a portrait of a time that was lost, but mostly lost to me. Now it is the strange feeling that we have, just in terms of our freedom of movement. It does feel like this fossil of how life was lived when we could, on a whim, jump on a plane and go across the country without thinking seriously about our health and all the associated climate issues that go along with it.
Yeah, exactly. Have you gone on a plane since March of 2020?
No, and it's a weird feel. It has a kind of colonial Williamsburg feeling, kind of like we have snapped back to a period in history before Dominic Dunn, when the idea of
when dinosaurs ruled the earth.
Well, let's hope.
Well, it's inevitability. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. Time is a spilled glass of gin that I slipped on and hit my head. No, but back to a time when the only way for most people to get to the other coast would be by train or by car. Do you know what I mean? It would be a multi-day or week journey, and it's a strange feeling to walk around. Look, it's strange to walk around New York City in general, is equally surreal, if not more terrifying, in LA. But these vast centers of modern technology, wealth, privilege for many. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And appreciate that we're in we've snapped back to a kind of time when people couldn't just leave. They couldn't take an airplane. Do you know what I mean? We snapped back to a kind of not medieval, obviously, but early 20th century.
Very little is taken for granted at this point.
Yeah, and we can't. Yeah, and any move we make is one that is not only technologically. No, any move we make is one that is filtered through personal health concerns, public health concerns, and I think a kind of consciousness about the morality and immorality of this nation as a whole right now, which is. Right. Because we've got a lot of us are still, working from home, stuck at home, out of work. We have time to contemplate this stuff. And one of the things about the Black Lives Matter protests, as they obviously they continue to happen and the work goes on, but that particular moment through May, June into July, you saw white people come out for this movement in a way that they didn't come out back in back in Ferguson.
Yes, it was, I believe, equivalent to seeing Bull Connor's dogs attack people in, I guess it was Selma, that were white middle-class people really unequivocally saw the ugly face of it and couldn't turn away.
Until they could. I mean, until they could turn away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Until
I do.
Until just enough progress was made and just enough symbolic progress was made.
Right.
That we could listen to the siren song of Ronald Reagan and others, and be like, oh, we fixed it. Hooray.
Right. Sure.
And I think that, obviously seeing the images of black and brown bodies being brutalized by the police, there is no arguing with that. And, in my previous book, which was written after Ferguson, Vacation Land, there's a chapter about reckoning with having this evidence in video now.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because, and reckoning with it specifically from Maine, where I lived part of the time.
Right.
Which is a very easy place to turn off the topic of race.
Sure, absolutely.
Because in most of the state, there's only one. The white race. It's hypothetical.
Aerially, Maine looks like a bag of marshmallows were spilled in the woods.
Yeah. Well, Portland and Lewiston have very large Somali populations.
Right.
Now multi-generational. I mean, there is, but...
My favorite thing in Vacation Land is the description of the bottom of a swamp.
Oh,
I love that.
The bottom of a lake.
Of a lake. Well, it's a lake swamp. But yeah.
I mean, they are essentially.
A
Lovecraftian.
Yeah,
Lovecraftian hellscape.
I love it. It really stuck in my head. Yeah. It's really perfect because I also remember your foot just grazing.
With these giant, like Nerf football-sized freshwater clams just lurking down there, whispering to you.
Waiting to close and
join us.
And not painter turtles, but snapper turtles.
Snapping turtles. Oh yeah,
snapper turtle. Yeah.
But like the way we dealt with Ferguson, right? The conversation around Ferguson was black people would tell us this is a pattern, right? And we would tell ourselves it's not a pattern. It's just isolated incidents.
Bad apples.
Yeah. Isolated incidents like distant stars in far different parts of the galaxy that have no connection to one another. And on the other side of those stars, there are no angels, right? We just sort of casually demonize the person who got killed.
Right.
And just like, this feels bad. Let's move on. Right.
Yeah.
But the video and the virality of those videos is a huge gift to humanity because it started to make more white people than had before realize, oh no, this is a pattern. This is a ever repeating fractal of that closes, and it's self-similar all the way down. It happens again and again and again and again and closes around the neck of human beings. So the videos helped, right? But Ferguson, you still didn't see the level of on the ground supporters, white supporters. And it happened this time, I think. There was a lot of speculations because, all these white people are, home from their jobs as web designers or, baristas or whatever, or middle, executives or whatever like that. It
was a perfect storm. Everybody was trapped at home. Everybody couldn't turn away. And also
they had the time to do it. Right.
Right.
But more importantly, I think more people who had never had to, say, apply for unemployment insurance ever before had done so, right? Mm-hmm. The privilege, right, is that's for other people. That's not for me.
Yeah.
And, lots and lots and lots and lots of white people, because of generational wealth passed down over time and generational homeownership and all kinds of historical reasons and personal reasons, not everybody, right? But lots and lots of white people disproportionately probably have not had to engage with the safety net, the social safety net.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That certain politicians have been dismantling.
And as someone who
decades.
as a child, my only sop to the social safety net as a kid was that we were on the free lunch program. We qualified for free lunch at school.
Oh, you were one of those. Why am I even talking to you? You can't eat lunch with me.
Well, we had to say it. Like you have to get to the end of the lunch line and go, I'm on free lunch.
Right.
So you can eat if you humiliate yourself.
Well, and that's today. I mean, that's horrible, and I'm sorry. And it's today too. Like, if kids going into debt to pay for their lunches. Yeah, and if they don't pay it back, they don't eat. It's like disgusting. Yeah, but lots and lots of kind of well-meaning liberal, maybe even radically liberal, urban younger white people who had not had to engage directly with the system realized for sure, like, oh, this is a pattern. This is on purpose. Like, this is right. This is designed to hurt and impoverish people. This whole system. And just as there is a pattern with unaccountability for lethal force among the police, especially against black and brown people,
qualified immunity.
There is equally an ingrained pattern of whittling away at social safety nets and increased, concentration of wealth among the very, very elite wealthy. And not that lots of white people in Park Slope were sitting around, with the prosperity gospel on their mind, where it's like, I am going to be a billionaire in the future. Oh my goodness. What is that? A cat on a person's back? Yeah. Fantastic.
Welcome to the house.
Yeah. Anyway, I just feel like a lot of people saw what gross, incompetent mismanagement of a public health event and its economic fallout looks like. It was hurting them, and they realized, oh yeah, it matters. I'm vulnerable.
Right. And I think historically, the macro view of this historically is the act of idiocy / hubris to knowingly elect an unqualified person for a very complicated job.
Right. You're talking about Barack Obama.
I am. Yes, exactly. Of course. All of this had
Mr. Empty Suit Teleprompter.
Right. Yeah. Or as my friends on the far left, when evil walked the earth and its name was Al Gore, that of course this had to happen.
Yeah.
Like, as you tempt the fates will answer. Oh, you want to do that? Okay. Well, here's this.
Well, there was a certain portion of the electorate for Donald Trump that treated it like a game and still do and love it, right? Yeah. It made the people they hate angry. That gave them pleasure.
And that's it. and that's the end of it.
And if it caused real life problems for anybody, it probably wouldn't be them, right? That's that physical sense of, I am a whole human being who deserves respect because I've been treated that way my whole life. And then you don't connect the dots, but it's because you're white. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
That conveys a sense of invulnerability that I think a lot of white people of different political stripes appreciate because of this virus that is not real. Yeah. And it's horrifying and awful, right? That all of these new allies, including myself, I'm implicated in this, didn't really get skin in the game, their own lily white skin in the game, until they realized they themselves were vulnerable, that they lacked that empathy with other human beings who had been telling them for decades and centuries, we are whole human beings too, and yet nothing in this society treats us that way.
And this happened at a moment when, and I'm not laying this at the feet of the president, I'm absolutely saying that the president is a symptom, but when we have had a president who is utterly clinically devoid of empathy. Like, I've always felt that the president inflicts his psyche onto the country. It is no surprise that the years 1964 to 1974 were completely and utterly tumultuous because Lyndon Johnson and Richard Nixon were both, in their own way, certifiably fucking insane. And there's no, if you put a drunken guy is going to drive the bus, it's going to be a hectic bus ride. And so that's not a surprise. But we've also gotten to a point where, and I think the empathy is a part of it, where every single aspect of American life is, and of course the word left me,
a Lovecraftian hellscape.
Where every single aspect of American life has to be transactional. Like that, you can't have an element of civic life without a profit motive.
No, we've been trained by primarily corporations and the Republican Party to think that
Yeah, and the capitalism was not the point. Capitalism was not the point of the country. Capitalism was just the fuel injection system.
Had a lot to do with it.
Right, but not
those guys didn't want to pay taxes. They wanted to make money and not pay taxes.
Right, but it wasn't.
And own people too, some of them.
Sure, a lot of them, yeah. And half the country thought that the right to own a person was a good thing to go die in the mud for. So you got to keep that in mind when you're scratching your head.
They're true tales from Weirdsville. Tales from Weirdsville. And they're true.
Can your heart stand the shocking facts?
Now, we all know about QAnon. It's very simple. Everyone who is not in your Facebook group is a baby-eating super demon. Easy enough. The sad news is QAnon triggers crazy people to do violent shit. But there was a time when conspiracies were fun. One of the best 20th century conspiracies started with a little thing called Project Mogul, which was, of course, top secret. Project Mogul was a top-secret project by the U.S. Army Air Force that involved microphones flown on high-altitude balloons. Why were they doing this? It was to provide long-distance detection of sound waves generated by Soviet atomic bomb tests. And this project was carried out between 1947 until early 1949. In July of 1947, one of these high-altitude balloons crashed in the New Mexico desert. And on July 8th, 1947, the headline of the Roswell Daily Record said, RAAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. William Brazel, who was the foreman of the J.B. Foster Ranch, reported to the Roswell Daily Record that he and his son saw, quote, a large area of bright wreckage made of rubber strips, tinfoil, rather tough paper, and some sticks, located some 30 miles north of Roswell. Yeah, it doesn't really sound like an alien invasion. But the next day, Brazel heard stories about flying discs that had been reported in the skies over New Mexico, and he began to wonder if that was indeed what he had encountered. He spoke to the local sheriff, a guy named Wilcox, and told him he thought he might have happened upon a crashed saucer. Well, I guess Brazel was a well-respected guy because instead of laughing in his face, the sheriff instead went to the RAAF, which stands for Roswell Army Airfield, and asked them about it. If that's not a scene from a 1950s science fiction movie, I do not know what is. Now, the Air Base issued a press release a couple days later saying that personnel from the field's operations group had recovered a flying disc which had crashed on a ranch near Roswell. Let me repeat that. The base did not issue a statement saying they found a weather balloon. They issued a statement saying they found a flying disc. And that made the news. One local paper reported, quote, the many rumors regarding the flying discs became a reality yesterday when the intelligence office of the 509th Bomb Group of the 8th Air Force Base, Roswell Army Airfield, was fortunate enough to gain possession of a disc through the cooperation of one of the local ranchers in the sheriff's office at Chavez County. The flying object landed on a ranch near Roswell sometime last week. Not having phone facilities, the rancher stored the disc until such time as he was able to contact the sheriff's office, and the disc was picked up at the rancher's home. The debris was transferred to Carswell Air Force Base in Texas. Among the men accompanying the debris was a guy named Jesse Marcel. Remember that name. They said the disc in question was a disc, but it was suspended from a balloon, and then went on to say that the disc was probably a radar reflector. Now you tell me. This story made it all the way back to the Roswell Daily Record in time for the next day's edition, and a new story that implied that the object was indeed a balloon, if a balloon of unknown origin, possibly from some mysterious birthday party. The military didn't want to reveal the true nature of the balloon, which was that it was up there monitoring Soviet nuclear tests. They just said it was a weather balloon. And then the Roswell incident faded away for 3 decades. That was it. Until 1978. When a nuclear physicist named Stanton Friedman, along with a team of researchers, began investigating the Roswell crash. They filed a bunch of Freedom of Information Act requests and interviewed anyone and everyone who was alive at the time who claimed to be involved in the crash, among them Jesse Marcel. 2 years later, a book called The Roswell Incident by Charles Berlitz and William Moore was published. This book established what came to be known as Version 1 of the events at Roswell, that an alien craft was flying over the New Mexico desert observing U.S. nuclear weapons activity. How they know that? I don't know. But it crashed after being hit by lightning, killing the aliens on board, and the government covered it up. The incident at Roswell says that Jesse Marcel recovered the debris on the Foster Ranch. The famous photo of the dudes holding the debris at the crash site, that's Marcel in that photo. In 1991, another book was written called The Ufo Crash at Roswell. The point of the UFO crash at Roswell was to say that the incidents depicted in the Roswell incident weren't exactly the incidents that happened. This is what happened. Already, the truth, well, that's now 2 steps back. There's the truth, and then the truth, and then the truth. Like all good conspiracies, it has a built-in safety device. It's a conspiracy, so anything that doesn't add up or is purportedly disprovable is proof that there's someone there hiding something. The UFO crash at Roswell was written by Kevin Rand and Donald Schmitt, and it took the original concept, added some twists, and threw in a bunch more interviews. Then, Stanton Friedman, the original investigator, finally wrote his book, The Crash at Corona. See, the crash was actually not in Roswell, it was in Corona. Friedman's book takes the basic narrative but adds another saucer, now 2 crashed, and some more aliens, 8 instead of 4, and in this version 2 survived. That led the guys who wrote the UFO crash at Roswell to write another book in response to Friedman's book, in which they said, oh yeah, there were alien bodies, but did you know that they were flown to Washington, D.C.? Because Dwight Eisenhower wanted to look at them? By now, it was 1994, and the UFO crash at Roswell and Area 51 and all that stuff was a huge part of American pop culture. Largely because of the TV show The X-Files. Little alien greys were everywhere. However, there were now so many competing versions of the Roswell story that there was a schism, you heard me, a schism, in the UFO community. The Center for UFO Studies and the Mutual UFO Network went to war with each other, some siding with Friedman, others siding with Rand and Schmitt. In response to all this, the U.S. Congress began an official inquiry, which directed the Office of the United States Secretary of the Air Force to begin an investigation. That report was released in 1994 and said what is now suspected to be the real truth, that the material recovered in 47 was debris from a Project Mogul spy balloon. Of course, UFO proponents used this to prove that the crash at Roswell was in fact real. Why else would the Air Force say that it wasn't? 1995 also saw the release of Alien Autopsy. a 17-minute black and white film purporting to show home movie footage of the post-mortem examination of one of the alien bodies recovered from the Roswell crash site. The 17 minutes was padded out to an hour with interviews, etc. It was shown on Fox, hosted by Jonathan Frakes of Star Trek The Next Generation, or Frakes. Frake. But yeah, he would know aliens. Alien Autopsy was a huge success. Fox aired it 3 times within a year, and each time it got bigger ratings. The film was made by a London entrepreneur named Ray Santinelli. Now, in 2006, Santinelli admitted that the film was actually a recreation of the alien autopsy footage, but that he had seen the footage, but he hadn't known it. The making of the movie Alien Autopsy itself became a movie called Alien Autopsy. The movie Alien Autopsy is a 2006 comedy about the making of the 1995 recreation of the purported 1947 alien autopsy that may or may not have happened but probably didn't. I love these Russian dolls. In 2010, they made a movie called The Thing that was a prequel to 1982's The Thing, which was a remake of 1951's The Thing, which is about a monster that can reproduce itself. By the end of the 1990s, if you asked the average American walking down the street what happened in Roswell, New Mexico, they would probably have told you that a flying saucer crashed there and the government covered it up. By that time, there was even a TV series called, you guessed it, Roswell, about sexy young aliens and their difficulties fitting in. So what happened? 9/11 happened. And suddenly, the threat of aliens was replaced by the real threat of Al-Qaeda. And Americans suddenly turned to the government that they no longer trusted and looked to it for protection. It was time to put away childish things, and UFO conspiracies and all that other fun 90s stuff went out the window. For a while, at least. And then, in December of 2017, 2 separate videos emerged of Navy pilots encountering mysterious flying objects. A third was released in March of 2018. And in a rather surprising move, the Navy rather casually admitted, yeah, they're real. We don't know what they are. Really? You would have think that would have been bigger news. But by the time that footage was released, we were well into our experiment of having a sociopathic, malignant narcissist former game show host as a president. And by that time, the fact that UFOs were real elicited kind of a shrug. Of course, the Navy insisted these weren't UFOs. These are UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. Okay, slick move. The footage, it should be said, was not originally intended for public release. There's a thing called the Black Vault blog, which serves as a massive repository of government documents that civilians can access, largely through Freedom of Information Act requests. John Greenwald Jr., who founded Black Vault, pointed out that for the very first time, the Navy acknowledged, on the record, that it had video of objects that it could not identify. To quote Greenwald, the most powerful military doesn't know what these objects are. That doesn't mean they're aliens, or that they don't have a plausible, logical explanation, but admitting that they see things in the sky and they can't identify them, that to me is the most amazing part of this. End quote. The videos were first released by the New York Times in conjunction with an organization called To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences, which, and I quote, engages with global citizens to investigate the outer edges of science and unconventional thinking. One of the other things that emerged from that same investigation was the revelation of the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program. That was the Pentagon's study of UFOs. And this wasn't some 50s paranoia. That program was started in 2007. So, we know that UFOs are real because we don't know what they are. And we trust the government in the sense that we know the government is lying. And they know that we know that they are lying. And we know that they know that we know that they are lying. And they know that we know that they know that we know that they know.
Yes, sir. May I help you?
I'd like 2 of those, please.
Hot dogs? Yes, sir.
And 3 of those. And 1 of those. And 5 bars of these. And a cup of that nice hot liquid.
Coffee. Coming right up.
Oh, and 2 bags of those peculiar white puffy material.
You mean our crunchy popcorn? Shall I wrap that for you, sir?
Oh, that's all right. My saucer's just outside.
They come from miles to enjoy our intermission.
We all use credit cards. It's the primary way in which we spend money. But credit cards can also make you money. Did you know that with the right credit card, you could be earning hundreds, even thousands of dollars in rewards every year? But how do you pick the best card? GigaPoints, GigaPoints, is a site that uses data to match you with the best cards for the way you actually spend, so you can score cash back with travel or whatever the rewards are. GigaPoints is a site. You go to the website. There's no answering a ton of questions or doing a ton of research. You create an account and receive recommendations in just a couple of minutes. GigaPoints has an algorithm that does the work for you. It never sees your login details or your credit card numbers. It uses the same security tools that Venmo and American Express use. Your banking information is encrypted and secure during the entire process. Now, other credit card sites have a one-size-fits-all approach, and they show you what they think will make them the most money. GigaPoints only wants to find you the best deals. If you want free flights, they can find the best credit card for you based on your spending. For me, it would be eBay and buying back toys from my childhood that my brother shot with a BB gun. That's where my money goes. If you just want cash back, whatever you want, GigaPoints is for you. I travel all the time, or hope to when the world reopens. And the credit card that I am using, I found out, does not provide the maximum benefit. And I found that out thanks to GigaPoints. And I'm going to do something about it. To see how much you could be earning on your credit cards, go to gigapoints.com/Dana. That's GIGA points.com/Dana. But please, never /Dana. When you're talking about Bigfoot sightings, it all starts with the Patterson and Gimlin film, to be sure. But if you're talking about UFO sightings, specifically alien abductions, then you are talking about Betty and Barney Hill. Contrary to who you normally envision when the talk turns to alien abduction, Betty and Barney Hill were not blubbering hayseeds. Barney was a respected, reliable employee of the U.S. Postal Service, and Betty was a social worker. They were diligent, church-going community leaders, active in the NAACP and the U.S. Civil Rights Commission. They were an interracial couple. Barney was black and Betty was white, which for the year in question, 1961, was fairly ballsy indeed. And so, on the night of September 19th, 1961, Mr. and Mrs. Bernard Hill were driving through the woods in upstate New Hampshire on their way home from a vacation in Niagara Falls, New York. They observed a bright light in the sky. As they approached Lincoln, New Hampshire, the bright lights descended, revealing themselves to be a spacecraft, looking, in Barney's words, like a huge pancake. They stopped the car and observed humanoid figures within the craft looking down at them. They then reported hearing a series of buzzes and beeping noises that seemed to bounce off the hood of their car. One can only wonder what those aliens inside that ship were thinking.
Yes, very curious, very interesting.
At this point, the Hills' memories falter. They both reported entering an altered state of consciousness. When they came to, it was later, much later, and they were some 35 miles south. When they finally arrived home around dawn, it was a 4-hour drive that took 7 hours, they noticed a series of concentric circles on the hood of their car that weren't there the day before. They also noticed that their watches were now magnetized and totally useless. Later, Betty saw that the cloth around the hem and the zipper of her dress was torn.
Yes, what beautiful markings.
2 days later, Betty reported the incident to Pease Air Force Base. They were interviewed by a Major Paul Henderson, who filed the incident away in the U.S. Air Force's Project Blue Book, which was their official UFO program. Betty and Barney both claimed very specific memory loss. This would later become known as missing time. They were each instructed to make a drawing of what they could remember, and although they were separated when they made the drawings, both of the images were nearly identical. Several days later, Betty began having very vivid dreams. They depicted what we now think of when we envision an alien abduction. A small group of short, vaguely humanoid creatures, these would later take on the name Greys, leading Betty and Barney up the ramp of the ship that they claimed to have encountered on the highway. There was a mysterious medical exam, a little something-something up the you-know-where, etc., etc. The Hills were later interviewed by a civilian UFO group in Quincy, Massachusetts, where, oddly enough, my dad used to work when he was in the phone company. Coincidence? No. Not even remotely. These are just two unrelated facts. But I thought it worth mentioning. It was at this meeting in November of 1963 that the suggestion was made to the Hills that they undergo hypnosis to uncover their lost memories of the event. Now, it's important to keep in mind that the Hills were not trying to capitalize on the incident. They hadn't even gone public with it yet. They simply wanted to know what happened. And so, they underwent hypnosis.
What beautiful markings.
The Hills had several hypnosis sessions with a Dr. Benjamin Simon, a man whose last name was also a first name. Anyway, under hypnosis, Barney recounted the events of September 19th more clearly. He recalled trying to drive away from the UFO, but then being compelled to pull off the road into the woods. The car stalled and 3 figures approached. He recalled the eyes of the figures, saying that, quote, I felt like the eyes had pushed into my eyes. And then later in another session, oh, those eyes, they had pushed into my brain. Betty's recollections were similar, although matching her dreams from immediately after the event. Let me take a moment here to tell you that there is an excellent book about Betty and Barney Hill's experience entitled Captured, the Betty and Barney Hill UFO Experience, available on Amazon.com. Why not go to danagould.com and click on our Amazon banner? You get the book for exactly what you would pay under any other circumstance, but a percentage of the sale is kicked back to us so we can keep the lights going here at the Dana Gould Hour. Now, back to Betty and Barney. Dr. Simon would come to conclude that Betty's recollections were not of an event, but of her dreams after the event, and that Barney's recollections were a fantasy inspired by Betty's dreams. This does not take into account any of the physical evidence whatsoever. He simply labeled the entire deal as a, quote, single psychological aberration. And so it may be. Or maybe not.
What beautiful markings.
And now, on with the show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, the ideals, you know, a lot of the ideas and the Enlightenment ideals of self-determination and liberty and anti-aristocracy in the founding documents of the revolution were legit revolutionary, not just in fighting against Hessians, but in the mind, like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that those ideals and principles are very extremely valuable, worth preserving, worth fighting for, worth dying for. And especially the ideal that the Constitution was designed not to be a Bible, but a living compact among citizens as they live and grow and change.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
I mean? And I think that that's, look, a very, very flawed society at every stage of its existence, much like every society.
Yeah. I think it was.
But there's something interesting and valuable written into the DNA of the USA that we are imperfect, but we have a system for trying to achieve a better outcome.
Right. Hence a more perfect union. And I believe it's I don't know who said it. It was Churchill, maybe it's the worst system except for all the other ones.
Yeah. Yeah, and but you're absolutely right that we've lived in decades and decades, and I'm going to put it post Reagan, really, and because that was really the establishment of the contemporary Republican national mythos that is you do for yourself and nothing else matters.
Yeah, government is the source of the problem,
right?
And that was,
and we're gonna prove it by being the worst government possible.
Yeah, well, no, but that is the intention.
Yeah, well, of course.
Nick Offerman's character on Parks and Rec was designed to be like these libertarian, small town government libertarian guys that get into government to block the work of government to prove that government doesn't work.
Yeah, yep. And
that was Ron Swanson originally, and then. I don't know how, I do believe, hopefully my optimistic side says that we are at the end of that arc.
Well, I think that
someone said someone much funnier than I, and I can't remember who said it, but that Donald Trump was the fireworks display at the conclusion of white male privilege. It's like, I can only hope.
The fireworks display that set the world on fire.
I know. Yeah, we'll see what's left. But
I think I'm to the point of sort of where we started. Is this a tipping point? It's something that I think a lot about because having lived in New York through most of the experience of the pandemic so far, and much of the most robust protests surrounding Black Lives Matter. I feel like, for people in New York and other cities that have really struggled with these issues, both physically and morally, like, and this is the kind of the first experience that a lot of Americans who look like me have had with a national event that is not, that doesn't, a national shared traumatic event akin to an invasion or war or whatever, like it's like I don't want to sound like one of those creeps on the Twitter who say facts don't care about your feelings, but the virus doesn't care about your fake facts.
No, and I don't mean to keep bringing it back to Trump, but when you have an agent of chaos. Somebody said, like, the president, we have a president that doesn't govern the country, he harasses it.
Right.
And you just become inured to it.
Herd immunity.
Yeah. No,
We're developing herd immunity.
Yeah. And it's like growing up with an alcoholic, rageaholic
absolutely
father that you just shut down.
Right.
And then at some point after he's gone, we're all going to become strippers and comedians.
Well, look, the Trump and the Trumpian mismanagement of the virus is also a trauma that we are reckoning with. Even his supporters are reckoning with, because I don't think their brains feel good, right? Deep inside to know. I think very few of them are not aware that he is a creep and a con man, but he excites them and he energizes them and he makes them feel good and they like it.
And I think you tie that to and that QAnon is the shiny set of keys distracting them from that. Oh no, it's not him.
Right.
It's Hollywood celebrities.
That's not a nice place to live either. Even if you're,
I know.
I would say that believing that the world is controlled by a crypto Jewish cabal of celebrities and aristocrats who are sex traffickers and baby eaters.
Yeah.
There's a limited amount of consolation you can take from that theory.
Right.
That's not a fun place to live. You know what I mean?
View that, come up with something new.
Right.
Yeah.
And so all I'm saying is that
today is brought to you by Adrena Cola.
Hi, I'm John Hodgman for Adrena Colon. Adrena Colon. Maybe that too.
But man, and I don't know how much of this is really prevalent in society and how much of it is just through because I am on Twitter occasionally.
Well, Twitter, don't do that anymore.
I was genuinely.
It's not a good place for.
Are you
joking.
on it at all?
Yeah, I dip in every day. It is it is a main source of news for me.
Yeah, but it is amazing how you can just I like cheese sandwiches, and then just.
Oh, you like murdering seniors?
Yeah, it's just amazing. Yeah, I know it is. Just
There's a
amazing.
clear line between those two things.
It is just amazing that it's
the beauty. Look, I have asthma, and I'm a shy, scaredy cat, and we're living in a virus.
Right.
So I'm here. I live, a mile and a half from the Barclays Center where a lot of those nightly protests were happening. And I'm
right.
I want to be an ally.
Sure. Yeah.
Whatever. And finally on my birthday, I'm just like, F this. I have to get out there. This is important to experience, but more important, it's important to amplify, right? Mm-hmm. I need to add my body to these bodies.
Yeah, we did that on the Hollywood Boulevard protest.
And it was just, if I lurked in my house, set aside quarantine, lurking on Twitter behind a screen is so, and I love Twitter, @Hodgman, follow me. But being out in the world amidst people of truly every age, gender, race, all these people marching together safely, masked, taking care of each other, giving each other water bottles, my daughter and I marched for miles up into Williamsburg with this group, and it was such an enlightening experience to realize we live in monstrous times, but those around us are not monsters. There are a lot of non-monsters around us.
Yeah, no, that's well put.
And I think that it's not just inspiring feels like the wrong word. It's just, we need what this experience did and is doing, I think, is it's working us over on a lot of different levels.
Yeah.
Some of which are extremely painful. And yet all of them are really, really important. And part of the equation is a lot of people who felt casually invulnerable realize now that we're all just bodies of meat.
Yeah.
That can be taken by disease. That could potentially be taken by force.
Yeah. So you're a meat covered skeleton on a rock flying through space.
Yeah. There's nothing particularly valuable about the fact that I wrote for McSweeney's. Fate is not going to turn its random cruel hand from me just because I still have Dave Eggers' email address. and same with everyone around me. And lots of people who've been targets of systematic racism, which is all non-white people, they've known this forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they've told us. And I think that the question now, they're, we're just a few, as we record this, I'm very, very bad at subtraction. What's 16 minus 11? 15? No,
5.
5? All right.
5.
Thank you. 15, I said. Listen to me. Oh, my God.
20 million.
We're past the 19th anniversary of September 11, right? Arguably the last major United Statesian national trauma. And people said this will change everything forever. And while it certainly killed a lot of people around the world in pointless war, and certainly changed a lot of the ways our rights are treated by the federal government.
It just changed a lot of things for the worse.
It changed a lot of things for the worse, but it was not like the memorialization of the unity that we felt on September 12th.
No.
Was always, I think, a little unseemly and untrue. And also what happened,
but emotionally necessary.
Particularly in New York, of course, and not bad. I'm not.
I know what you're saying.
I'm not being glib about it.
I know what you're saying,
but in New York, we were all look. I'll tell it to you straight, Dana. In New York, we were all like, "Are rents going to go down? Like, are people going to leave now? Are rent's going to go down?" And of course,
and the people that are with the most virulently remember the 9/11 hated New York.
Right, they still did.
They lived in Omaha, Nebraska. They despise it.
Hey! I love Omaha, the Big O.
My beloved partner is from from Nebraska.
Lincoln is a different world from Omaha. I've never been to Lincoln.
No, she lives in Omaha.
Nice. Yeah. I love Omaha.
So is that where Warren Buffett lives?
Yeah,
that's where. Yeah, Omaha.
On Robin Hood Lane, I believe.
I drove past his house. It's not that big of a deal.
Look, all billionaires got to do a better job right now than they've been doing.
Well, they could look to Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett, in his way, is a responsible billionaire. But
totally, his house is completely.
It's not a monster.
Not at all. Not at all. No. I'll just
as I wrote in the areas of my expertise, one of my books. If you want to find Warren Buffett's house in Omaha, simply take a quarter, put it on its side on any street corner, and it will roll to his house.
It's true. No, I really loved Omaha when we went to visit, and she's Kat's from good Midwestern stock, and her mother's very sweet. Mother's very Catholic, and we were talking about the church or something, and I made a reference to the pedophile scandal, being that I was an altar boy in the Boston Archdiocese in the early 1980s and somehow emerged unscathed. And she just went, "Yes, that was a sad chapter." It was but it was the most beautifully Midwestern understatement. Yes.
Yeah.
That was a sad chapter.
Well, so, right. This is not to implicate Kat's mother, but it is a part of our nature to turn the page to start a new chapter.
Yeah.
It is part of our nature. And particularly those of us who have means and look the way we do, to go, okay, let's move on. I understand, Well, the conversation, like after 9/11, there was a talk about nothing will ever be the same again. And guess what? It got to be the same pretty quick for one's experience of white upper middle class to wealthy life in New York anyway.
And part of that is, I believe, the lack of a centralized source of information. That people do, like my brother, my oldest brother, is was a cop, became a prison guard, retired from the prison system,
right?
Watches Fox News, reads the Boston Herald. He does not live in the same reality that I live in.
No, not at all.
No, and we talk on the phone. And I've actually spent a lot more time talking to my brothers than I used to. My mom is living in a assisted living facility. She has pretty serious dementia, and so we all talk more, and we get on great. we do not talk about those subjects at all. And
well,
that
because
but what that gives me is an insight that people who do not share my political beliefs are also human beings.
Yeah.
That, what does my brother think the problem with the world is? The BLM protests.
Right.
But if your car was broken down on the side of the road, he would pull over and offer to help you.
Right.
It's like he's not evil.
Well, I'm a white person. So of course.
But what I'm saying is,
I completely.
He would help.
Look,
yeah.
Well, I've got family that's the same.
That's a gift that a lot of people do, but that's a gift that a lot of people don't have. And that's where I would always get in trouble arguing with
your understanding of that you and your brother see different color skies.
Yeah, and people on the argument that I always have with people on the strident left, the burn it all down now,
right,
is you got to get out of your Facebook group. You got to go to Omaha and see what this country is made of.
Alexander Payne took me to Omaha because I was profiling him for the New York Times Magazine back in 2003 or whatever. And I just wanted to know, why was he setting his movies in Omaha? Because I didn't understand Omaha.
His business partner is one of Kat's like 5 or 6 high school friends.
Yeah.
Like close friends from high school.
Right.
So the town's that small.
And I just didn't understand what Omaha was. I didn't understand the Midwest very well, and certainly Omaha just felt. I mean, it's literally the Big O, like it's a null set in the middle of the country.
Yeah, it's just
I know
insurance company after Wild Kingdom.
Yeah, exactly. Omaha, Mutual of. Hi.
Yeah,
I'm John Hodgman from Mutual of Omaha. Oh boy, that's so good at that. So
remember this. Mutual of Omaha's people, you can count on when the going's rough.
Look, I don't know if this company is still a going concern, but
it is.
Hey, President of Mutual of Omaha, if Dana and I are both auditioning for the same job, I think I just booked it.
I love
Don't go retro. I'm going to make it cool. I'm going to call it the Much of O.
Much of O. Yeah, you'll get me for sure.
Hey, kids, you ready to sign up for some life insurance with the Much of O?
Wow. This is literally 24 hours ago. I was, I wear the vintage glasses. I have a vintage haircut. I'm in a vintage shirt. I was like, "You're so vintage," and I'm like, "Honey, can I just watch this?" And I was watching The Twilight Zone. Like, just please. And then we'll go buy records.
Yeah, but I mean, Alexander Payne showed me Omaha, and Albany is the new Rome. I dare say. Omaha may be the new Albany.
Yeah, it is.
One step, but it was wonderful, and it's like it is a city full of well-meaning people, right? He's like, look at that guy over there at dinner. Like, look, he's a nice old guy. Probably thinks George W. Bush, is an okay person, kind of misunderstood. Everyone's being sweet to each other. And I'm like, yeah, right. I got it. They're they're not political opponents. They're human beings, and we have our core values that we want to maintain and preserve and put out into the world, and they have theirs, and I would like to do a better job with ours because I think it's better for everybody. But also in the same city, Omaha, you had young kids wearing vintage things, and it
has everything.
There's a reason why flyover country, back when we could fly over it regularly, had and has so much resentment for the legit culture, coastal elites, just because we don't think about them, and that's really wrong, and we're all paying the price, even them, for missing that.
And that's what that's where I, because of your job and my job, I've been all over the fucking country.
Right.
Repeatedly, and it's like, not everybody thinks this way.
Right.
Not, and and I don't know what to say to people who, to me, if it's shit and shit with glass in it, get the shit. And it's like people are like, no,
Dana,
there shouldn't be
I've
shit.
seen. I know that's your motto. I've seen your coat of arms.
but it's like that. I don't know what to say to people who want everything to change immediately in a grand scale. I'm like, great. Show me where it's happened before.
I don't know. I mean, because you talk about how your brother and you do not share the same reality. You are living under different colored skies. Like,
totally.
You can talk about what happened at the sports game, probably, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you said, "Boy, that's
have we met?"
I'm just trying to think of what normal people are.
How about those points? How about the points that were scored in that sports game?
It was quite a trip to the score hole there for that last quadrant of the game.
The score hole. Yeah, the score hole was really on fire.
One of my great comedic regrets. I did a thing on the Daily Show, and they were playing on the very true image of me of someone who does not know anything about sports.
Yeah.
And it was some comment about something about Tom Brady was in the news and the Patriots. So they had me in hockey pants and a Patriots jersey and a tri-corner hat and also like boxing gloves.
Sure.
And a baseball bat. I'd be like, John, I am so excited for sports and Tom Brady, because let me tell you something. When the Patriots put it into the score space, I yelled goal. And I don't think a week has gone by when I was like, why did I say score? Because that was an ad lib. Why did I say score space? Score hole. Score hole.
My brother Jim, his arm, I have a photo of my arm and his arm. And my arm has no tattoos. I'm bereft of tattoos.
None for me, thank you.
To take the Paul F. Tompkins Bob's Burgers pronunciation of tattoo.
Oh, Farnham, what are we doing today? Getting tattoos? No, none for me, thank you. No, thank you.
But my brother has like the Patriots logo, the Bruins logo. It's like his fear is that he'll be found dead and the people won't know his favorite teams.
Right.
That's his overriding fear.
Well, but I mean, here's the thing. So in his world, the sky is a completely different color, and there's no discussing it because that's what he sees. Do you know what I mean? And similarly with our friends on the left, who, by the way, when they push on me, I'm grateful. Like, because I'm like, yeah, you're making me uncomfortable. You're making me question my premises. I get it now. Like there are certain areas of moderate where I was much more moderate than I am now, and it's because of people pushing at me from the left and the Bernie Sanders movement in general. Like that's been great for the Democratic Party. But there are lots of people who live in their own reality over there too.
Yeah.
And this is not people who live in extreme realities and they see this society and this fight as a zero-sum game that must be won. Fine, you win. Like all I can do is
your life is going to be a miserable struggle,
right? Because I don't see it as a zero-sum game where I win, you lose, and that's the only outcome. Like
that's cool. That's brilliant. That, by the way, that's brilliant. And I'm
incredibly intelligent.
I clearly look at your.
And I would also say, and give me a second here to stretch out, Dana, because this is going to be good. I would also say that living in a zero-sum reality, however you're getting it, whatever news source you're getting it from, whatever its shape it takes, it's not a fun place to live. It's fun and better to appreciate this person, is real different from me politically or in their values or whatever, but we both like this thing, and maybe we can find a way to live together. And I'm not talking about not engaging on points of real personal value,
right?
But appreciating the humanity of everybody. And do you know Josie Long? Do you know Josie Long, the British comedian Josie Long?
No.
This is a big. I'm going to call it a plug, but it's really I'm stealing a joke from her. But I'm crediting her. This is one of the greatest jokes I've ever.
Not stealing if you credit.
One of the great Josie Long, Josie space Long, one of the greatest. And this is one of the the funniest things I've ever heard in my life, and I'm going to do my best to paraphrase it. She's British. It was right after Brexit. And I heard it as she was workshopping it. I was in London doing the Judge John Hodgman podcast live in London, and went to go see her workshop. And this was, this was after Brexit, but before Trump. And
right,
we were like, are we going to learn our lesson from Brexit or no?
Nope.
Because everyone there was dealing with this, like, I don't know my neighbors anymore. I don't know my country anymore. Like, I feel, etc. And in her act, where she was talking about dealing with Brexit, she was like, it's times like these that I think back to the novel To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. And in the novel To Kill a Mockingbird, Atticus Finch says to his daughter Scout at some point, and again, I'm doubly paraphrasing, right? I'm
sure, yeah.
Quote. In To Kill a Mockingbird, Atticus Finch says to his daughter Scout, we are fighting this fight now, and it is important that we fight it. But when it is over, we must remember that these people that we are fighting against are our neighbors. And we have to be their neighbors. But before that happens, we've got to go kill that fucking mockingbird. I laughed so hard. And she just plays it out. It's recorded somewhere. She just plays it out. She's like, and then she just starts going like, and so, we will reach out to them, but we've got to fucking kill that bird. But
it is so.
Well, mockingbirds are our common enemies, and then we're all gonna. That's what's gonna unite us as a country.
That's when the teacher knows you didn't really read the book.
Yeah. So to answer your question,
yeah, it's true, but it's very true. And
yeah, we bounced back after 9/11, and people are like, "Are we going to bounce back after this?" And I'm like, I don't want to bounce back. I want to move forward. Like returning to normal is a bad idea because it turns out
I don't see it.
Normal wasn't
I see
good.
I see my prediction based on just having lived through one of these cycles before. I see it as much more akin to late 60s, early 70s. I think we are in a period of we are looking.
Okay, boomer.
Yep, I am. Last year,
when we were in the late 60s, early 70s, we were already wrestling with these ideas. You kids.
There's going to be I think there's going to be a wave of societal change where change is forced through, and then there's going to be a cultural hangover, a sort of a nihilistic mid-70s. Where are we? Who are we? What are we?
Yeah.
And then where we went wrong is we elected Ronald Reagan, who said, "No, we're awesome. Doesn't matter."
Where we went wrong was Ronald Reagan saying we've never done anything wrong.
Exactly.
I mean, I agree. I agree with you, and that may happen that way. It may be decades before
the genius
we snap back. But I don't predict the future. I actually don't feel terrified that I don't know what's going to happen next. I'd rather go into an uncertain future where we're fighting for something better than return to a normal that I know.
I knew you were going to say that, for I predict the future.
Other podcasts reach for the sky. Dana Gould bound. We barely try.
This has been the Dana Gould Hour, brought to you by the Internet. Music by Andy Paley, with Jake Posner behind the board. Produced by Jeff Fox. Graphic design and web production by Spencer Hunt and Segan Friend. Sound editing and post-production by Jalinda Palmer and Joe Napolitano. Hey, if you like the show, why don't you drop us a line at show@danagould.com. Tom Kenny speaking.
I'm a DJ, I'm a person, I'm a singer, I love to sing and DJ. Boom! Peace out. You want me? Peace out. Boom.